Brian Thomas was. Rome Odunze wasn't. Lad McConkey was. Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't. Look, which rookie wide receivers are actually going to help you win your league by breaking out late in the season? We got 4 players we think fit the bill. The first player off the board at his position doesn't always help you the most in fantasy, but in this case, you think he will.
I do, and I'll be honest, when Tatiro McMillan was first drafted, when we were doing the live stream as a Panthers, I was kind of like, I didn't love it. I thought it was okay. But the more I've dug into it, the more I've come around on it. I think this could be a home run spot for him. Obviously, number one, we know he's the clear number one wide receiver in this offense. I mean, Jalen Coker, Xavier Legette, who I do like as a sleeper, but is now dealing with a foot injury. The corpse of Adam Thielen. I mean, there's no competition here. There's no reason this guy shouldn't see 100-plus targets as a rookie in year one. But what I really like is when I looked into how his game and Bryce Young's game kind of meshes together. When you look at it last year, there were 3 things Bryce Young did really well. Number 1, back shoulder throws. Number 2, I call them like scramble drills, right, where he's running around, buying time and making a play. And then number 3, those in-breaking routes, those dig type of routes, which is kind of surprising because Bryce Young is not the tallest quarterback, but he was great on those routes. Well, you know who was also great on all those routes in college? McMillan. Back shoulders, the scramble drills, he was a monster on those scramble drills at Arizona, but also he was one of the best route runners in terms of the dig route. So I think this is a match made in heaven for McMillan and Bryce Young. And he's in this Carolina offense that you think, okay, it's Carolina, but the offensive line actually isn't bad. Dave Canales is a good offensive mind, and Bryce Young showed last year down the stretch that he may actually be able to become a franchise quarterback, or at least a quarterback good enough to support a high-end wide receiver. So McMillan, again, I wasn't too excited after he was drafted here, but the more I've looked into it, the more I've come around on him. And the nice thing is, in fantasy right now, he's probably going to be drafted as your wide receiver 3. He doesn't need to be your wide receiver 1 like Marvin Harrison was, or probably even your wide receiver 2. So there's very little risk here, but I think the upside is that he actually is one of those league-winning wide receivers like a Brian Thomas Jr., like a Lad McConkey.
Now, last year, I wasn't excited at all about the Patriots' offense, especially the pass offense. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that both of us said we're just avoiding, just staying away, right? And you know what? That proved to be pretty wise because it was a very anemic offense. And so they got burned by their draft picks, both Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. Let's just face it, they were busts. Like, they weren't just not great, they were flat out bad. They look like busts, even after just 1 year. I don't think Kyle Williams will be another Patriots receiver who busts. Now, Kyle Williams was not a first or even a second round pick because, let's face it, the Patriots have other needs. I'm glad they reinforced that offensive line. I love TreVeyon Henderson in that offense. But Kyle Williams was taken at the 3-5, almost a second round pick, if you want to look at it that way. But he's also a receiver a lot of people thought might have gone earlier and just didn't, right? But it doesn't matter. He's in a perfect spot now to actually take on a lot of the target share in that offense because, let's face it, there's not a lot of competition. Now, I won't get into the whole Stephon Diggs thing. I think he'll be there, right? He'll show up. They're not cutting him or anything like that. And he will recover from his injury and he'll be out in the field. But we know this is not the same Stephon Diggs. It is not, prime Buffalo Bills, Minnesota Vikings Stephon Diggs, right? He'll be there, but he's not going to be an alpha like he used to be. Now, I'm not saying Kyle Williams is going to be an alpha receiver, at least not right away. But what he does bring to the table is that speed, got 4.4 speed. He's a big play threat. This is a guy that thrived despite being some smaller programs at college. The last couple of years at Washington State. And it's actually kind of funny because his junior year at Washington State, a lot of people don't remember, Cam Ward was there. And yet he actually did better his senior year under, let's say, a lesser quarterback, right? Can't do any better than the Heisman winner. But, Cam Ward didn't make Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams made himself into a legit deep threat, legit top receiver in college, and I think he can make himself that. And you know who else thinks that? He's been compared to a guy that you might know, legend Steve Smith Sr. You know who's comparing him to Steve Smith? Steve Smith is comparing him to himself. That's what he sees in Kyle Williams. He thinks he's the same type of guy. He's already drawn a lot of great reviews at camp as far as being a good separator, or he got a long touchdown bomb. I know, it's camp, whatever. It doesn't count. But still, he is looking like he's living up to the hype. And you know who else at Patriots camp has stood out at receiver? Nobody. Okay, and that's my point. Kyle Williams will be Drake May's go-to guy, I think, early. and often. All right, back to the first round. Another receiver you think is going to live up to the hype.
I do. And speaking of speed, how about 4.2940? That's Matthew Golden. That was the 40 time he ran this year. And not only do I love it just because of speed, I mean, that's fine. Speed alone doesn't guarantee anything, honestly. But I also love the landing spot here in Green Bay because head coach Matt LaFleur is an offensive-minded coach. He's going to know how to use this guy. I think we're going to see him used very similarly to how we saw Xavier Worthy used last year in KC and how we see Tyreek Hill used in Miami. What do I mean? I mean, he's not just going to stand there like a static wide receiver waiting for the ball to be snapped. A lot of pre-snap motion where he's running, cheating, I dare say, getting that head start that seems illegal to me, but somehow it's okay, and just get that advantage over the DBs and hit a ton of home runs, kind of like what we saw with Xavier Worthy last year. Now, similarly to Xavier Worthy, he may not be a guy that you feel great about having in your lineup every single week, especially early in the season. But I do think as the season goes on, he's going to have that upside you want, that kind of upside that terrifies your opponent when they see Matthew Golden in your lineup. They're like, this guy can win the week for my opponent. Because again, in this offense, what do we have here? We have Romeo Doubs, who I feel like is kind of a good possession receiver. Like it's 3rd and 8, you need a first down. Yeah, you find Romeo Doubs. Jaden Reed, who is only targeted on 16% of his non-screen routes. He's just there kind of, right? Yard after catch slot guy. And then Dontavian Wicks, who knows what we're going to get with Dontavian Wicks, just a hype train. And we're probably not going to see Christian Watson this year because he tore his ACL. That means they are going to need Matthew Golden to be that vertical threat, that big play threat. But he can do more than just vertical routes. Yes, he was an above average separator on every vertical route in college, but he was also an above average separator on outs and digs. He's not just a one trick pony, run straight and throw the ball down there. He can do other things in this offense. I think he's going to be a true number one wide receiver in this offense. I know Green Bay, it doesn't feel like they ever have one. I think we're going to see Golden be that this year. Again, maybe not right away. He may not get off to like a great start, but I think as the season goes on and they get more trust in him, he's going to become a dependable fantasy option week in, week out, and he's going to have massive weekly upside, which is exactly what you want in fantasy, especially in the fantasy playoffs where it's win and go home. So Matthew Golden going pick 76 right now, wide receiver 42. That's a wide receiver 4 in fantasy. This is your bench wide receiver. Grab Golden every chance you can. Keep him on the bench. I think he could be a second half league winner for your fantasy team. And if you're ready to get your fantasy football fix on and start drafting right now, you got to check out UnderdogFantasy.com. They have best ball drafts going on all off season long, including their flagship Best Ball Mania 6, which is going to make multiple millionaires in 2025. Just go to UnderdogFantasy.com, join using promo code ENDGAME, because not only is that going to get you a free pick that you can use among any sport, but also up to $1,000 in bonus cash that you can use to start drafting right now.
All right, now I'm going to a receiver that, frankly, I'm shocked, Chris, you didn't pick on this list because I know you love some Jack Bech. Called him potentially this year's Puka Nacua, and I couldn't agree more. Now, I'm not going to get back into all those things you've already covered, exactly what it is you like about Bech. We know that we like the player, but now, post-draft, talk about why I like this situation. Because, again, kind of like with Kyle Williams, looking at the marriage of both target share and opportunity with talent. We know he's got the talent. That's why they made him a second-round pick. And look, the Raiders is not an exciting offense, as you know, but it could be because not only now do they have a bell cow, potentially breakout running back in Ashton Giante, now they actually have a legit quarterback who can throw the ball to their new receivers. And so I will say 4th-round pick Dante Thornton has raised some eyebrows. He's somebody as maybe like a later round pick, like a flyer, you might want to keep an eye on. But let's face it, the number 2 receiver in this offense from the jump should be Jack Bech. All right, now their actual number 1 receiver is their tight end, Brock Bowers. Now, Brock Bowers is good, but I don't think that Brock Bowers is going to command as many targets when they have legitimate wide receivers to throw to. And Geno Smith isn't a guy who is just going to target the tight end over and over again. A lot of this is just a result of the fact that they really didn't have a lot else to throw to. And when your quarterbacks are Aiden O'Connell and honestly can't remember whoever else they had last year, yeah, your options are limited. Okay, so we're going to see Geno Smith actually look a little bit more like himself. I think a lot of what we saw last year with Geno taking a step backwards was just the offense. I mean, there's a reason that Seattle fired their offensive coordinator. after one season. Didn't really want to establish the run at the right times. Had some odd personnel choices at times, and it just didn't mesh. All right. And so this is a fresh start for Geno. And you got to remember, I know this is a Pete Carroll team, and when you think Pete Carroll, you don't think dynamic pass offense. But this is a Chip Kelly offense, okay? He's known for being innovative as a play caller. This isn't going to be a boring offense anymore. And so, with a legit quarterback and with a lot of targets up for grabs here at the wide receiver position, I think we can see Besh really outperform based on the expectations. Nobody's really on him as a fantasy standout. I think he will be by midseason. We're here for you all off season to make sure you're ready for your draft. Check out this playlist with all the latest advice that you need.